Good morning from Automate. My name is Brian Heater. I am the managing editor of A3. This is our first panel of the show. Denise Stafford from KUKA. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So you have a talk tomorrow at 8 a.m.
That's correct.
Give me sort of the top level, what you're going to be chatting about.
So we have now mobile robots, AMRs, for over 10 years. So we developed a lot of knowledge over the years. So I want to talk about what we learned over the 10 years, what you might want to look at if you want to integrate a mobile robot in your factory.
So we were talking a little bit before, and the big C word for you is collaboration, right? I mean, like across the board, and that applies to everything. So human robot, robot. What
Human,
role do you see? Human, well, hang on a second. So when you say collaboration, what do you mean specifically?
So I think nobody can be alone anymore and just do her own thing, right? So if you want to put automation in your factory, you want to collaborate with an integrator, with a tech partner, with the people in your company. And then as KUKA, we collaborate with a lot of tech partners, integration partners. So for example, if you go to our booth, all of the applications are done by our partners. So collaboration is like everywhere. And if you look at the whole show, it's connection, collaboration, right?
Yeah, I mean, you make AMRs, obviously you make robot arms, but at the end of the day, you can't assume that everybody is going to be using just your systems. You need those partners integrated as well.
Exactly. And typically what robotics company do, you give them a robot, right? And then you have to make it application specifics because there are so many applications out there now, right? Palletizing, semiconductor, welding, that it would be impossible to have all these solutions. So that's why you have to collaborate.
Yeah, everybody's talking general purpose now, right? What humanoids think, but you see the future continuing to be these kind of purpose-built robots.
I mean, I see more and more standardization too, right? So talking about palletizing, right? So in the beginning, 10 years ago or something, everybody built their own palletizing application. Now you have standardized cells, so that makes it easier specifically for small and mid-sized companies to have it.
So again, obviously the hard conversation that people have to have when they're bringing robots on is what that means for the future of humans' jobs. So how do you keep the human on board, invested and interested from the outset?
So I would say we have to learn to really embrace technology and the human. And what I mean with that, if I'm a company owner and I'm thinking about automation, I should also think about the people who are working right now on this process because they have valuable insight. They're doing this forever. And also you want to have them on board because you still need them. So we don't replace really anymore anybody. We need the workers to do other things, but we have to prepare them for that, right? So we have to upskill workers, but also, again, they have valuable insights. So I really want to kind of make them part of my project from the very beginning. And companies who do that are very successful with that.
I was having a conversation with somebody recently, and they were talking about Gen Z. Obviously they're entering the workforce right now, and what's been really interesting to me is it seems like more than ever before people are interested in trade school, right? Entering the workforce that way. But obviously, if they're going to enter the workforce and they're going to work a blue collar job or a factory job, they need to know how to work with robots. So what can the education system do, and what can companies do to, as you said, upskill workers?
Actually, I think that it will help the industry that we do have automation and robotics and technology because the new generation grows up with that, right? They grow up with screens. So our new software system, which runs all of our robots, it's cloud-based, it's web-based, and I can program everything on a PC. So that attracts people working with robots because they're used to working with a laptop. And more universities, colleges actually do have robots so that they can give them like the basic education about that.
Obviously, there's a lot of people right now who are working those jobs, whose jobs are going to evolve. Um, what are companies doing enough right now to prepare their human workers to work alongside the robots?
That's a good question. I think it really depends. I think some are really good and
Yeah.
some might want to catch up on that.
Who's a good example of somebody who's doing it really well right now?
So one of the big um, shipping carriers, I don't honestly recall
Okay.
which one it was.
Like a logistics.
A
Yeah.
logistics, one of the big logistics companies, they actually have programs when they bring in new technology, they have like simulation they set up so that the workers can in a simulation test it out because they do not want to bring anything inside that they cannot handle or they don't like. So they really embrace this from it's in their process. Bring new technology in, simulate or test or demo, and then people can touch and feel or have an understanding what it is, and then they give feedback, and that's part of their decision making process. So that's a very good example.
That's super interesting. Usually when we talk about simulation or robotics, we're talking about training the robots.
Right.
But you're saying there's an aspect of that as well that actually gets people used to using these automated systems with the lowest risk possible.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. What kinds of simulations are they using? I mean, are they using like standard robotic simulators to train the workers?
It really depends on the technology, right? If you talk about robots, then you have this simulation, and then more and more is with VR technology, right, where you can simulate. So you can now set up a simulation and with VR glasses,
Okay, yeah,
goggles,
yeah.
and then
Headset.
they can actually walk
That's
this
interesting.
technology.
Yeah. So it seems like teleop is probably going to continue to be a part of this to a certain extent. Everybody's obviously talking about augmented reality. That will probably play a role as well. One of the big conversations that's happening right now, and like thankfully, is the safety conversation. Especially again, I know we're not really touching on humanoids very much right now, but one of the big things about having a general purpose robot is it's meant to be like there alongside people. And, increasingly the robots themselves are coming out of the cage. Obviously, they're going to be, walking alongside AMRs. They're going to be walking alongside automated forklifts. Is enough being done right now to ensure human safety alongside robots?
I would say yes. And I would say this is not your key problem anymore. So if I now talk about my AMRs, right? So they're safe. But what will they do to be safe? They will stop, right? So now you have productivity issues. Now going back to collaboration, you have to collaborate with your workforce so that maybe they leave the robot alone, not for safety, but for productivity reasons, right?
I like to leave people with like a big, broad question. So
Okay.
obviously, we're all talking about domestic manufacturing right now. But, the world's in a very interesting place on that front. So let's focus on the U.S. specifically. 5 years from now, how does the warehouse or the factory of the future compare to today?
Honestly, I don't see a big wow, it's totally different.
Yeah.
What I see happening, so I'm in this industry for nearly 20 years. It's like a constant evolution.
Sure.
So 5 years from now, I think you will have more and more companies knowing how to use automation, have automation, more and more people understanding it. You will have more like these standardized cells talked about you. So I think it's more an evolution than a revolution in 5 years.
Well, Denise, thank you so much. You can catch Denise tomorrow at 8 a.m. She'll be expanding on these things that we've been talking about today. You can catch me again at 10:55. We will be talking about the future of 5G with Jan Diekman of Ericsson. I'll be back at 3:20 to talk to John Bubinkovich of ABB. And let's see, what else? Tonight, coming up at 5:15, if you're on site, you can come to the Automate networking party. You can register for free and find all of the details and info on our website. It's automateshow.com. Thank you. Denise, thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.